This is the briefing for Friday, August 19th. In last night's briefing, I talked about the short-term support and resistance areas and suggested that they typically would be areas of good trade location. And of course, one of those was the low from Wednesday's trading, this low right here in the spiders. So, and we really opened up right at that low, right below this support level here is short-term support, and then of course traded down for the rest of the day, making a low just above 420 and then pausing for the rest of the day. Now, it's important here that 420 is an intermediate term support level, so it's actually more important than this level was. This is shorter term, this is intermediate term, and then we get longer term as we go down lower. So now the important short-term levels for Monday are going to be this area right here, which is the 425 area, because if we trade through that, then we're going to have a rotation back up through this range. If we hold below that on a test, now we did a breakout here from about 4 days of trading of a rotational pattern here, but if we do retest this level and then start back down again, we could see not only 420 tested, but 420 broken through, which would open up the potential to trade down to the 410 level. So what's interesting here is we did have a tick up in volume today on this move to the downside, but it really wasn't anything to write home about. But on the other hand, we really don't want to see volume coming all in one day or at one time. What we want to see is a trend developing and seeing volume and market breadth confirming the move by building on itself. Now, we did reach a point of being extremely overbought in terms of market breadth. You can see that was an extreme in the NYSE and an extreme in the NASDAQ as well. Volume did did increase slightly, but really I'm not seeing any impulsiveness in today's move either. So that leads me to believe that, okay, if this is the beginning of something greater in terms of a move to the downside, and last night I talked about it also, I said this is probably the most difficult rally to trade that I have seen in a long time, mainly because even though we have trended higher and the trend of price has to be respected, the internals of this rally just stink. And it's difficult for me to be long this market and hold it overnight with the internals being as weak as they are in this rally, because any day I could wake up and I could find the market has gapped down and is running to the downside. But as we look at what happened over the last couple days, we now have a 3-step counter-trend rotation. Now, I want you to remember this. Same thing with the Qs, 3-step counter-trend rotation. Now, a lot of times there's equality between leg 1 and leg 3. So I did the calculations on this just to determine whether this was looking more like a counter-trend rotation to the rally, or whether this is the beginning of something greater to the downside. And basically, if you look at this leg and then subtract this distance from this high, you get a projection for the spiders right down to 422.31, and you can see that we really traded right down to the 422.15 area. So that would tell me that there's a possibility this is complete. What would negate that would be trading, what would confirm that would be trading above this 425 level. That would be a significant event and suggest that this high is going to get taken out. On the contrary, trading below 420 would suggest that this is developing into something greater in degree of time and price to the downside, and would suggest trading down to the 410 area. The same calculations I made for the Qs, this leg, the distance of this leg minus this high would project the Qs down to 323.47, and you can see we reached really the 322 level, so a little bit longer in length than this, but those are areas, not defined points. So basically, for Monday's trading, what's going to be really, really important, because I really think this rally is very tired, looking, and the internals are just not confirming a move in either direction. When we get a down day, it's not impulsive to the downside. When we get up days, it's not impulsive to the upside. But the lack of selling pressure has allowed traders to push this market higher than I would have anticipated, above this 420 level in the Qs and above the 325 level in, the 325 level in the Qs and the 425 level in the spiders. Now, looking at where we are a little bit longer term, you can see that this level 420, really important, is this level's high. Trading below that is going to open up trading short term down to 410. So you can see we're testing that right now. Now, we did get a little tick up in volume, but this is volume in the spiders, but nothing to write home about. You can also see the huge divergence in market breadth as we went into this high. That was diverging, signaling some type of counter trend rotation. The other thing I want to look at is, if you look at this stair step up, and we looked at the same thing on the stair step down. I talked about this stair step down. Now we have somewhat of a stair step to the upside. So I'm questioning whether this is really the beginning of something greater in degree of time and price to the downside that would test the 410 area. But the key to that in Monday is 420 in the spiders. That is really an important key reference area. In the Qs, basically the same thing. 320 is support. Longer term support, that's a very important level. Trading below that is going to open up trading down to the 300 level, and I would suggest if that occurs, then this rally is complete, and potentially this low from, I think that's June 16th, that low is going to get tested and potentially taken out. NASDAQ breadth, you can see, was collapsing going into this high, and that was just a pretty good signal that there was some type of counter trend rotation that was getting ready to happen. Now, in terms of overbought and oversold, I talked about this being an oversold condition on this day, on 2 days ago on Wednesday's trading, and I suggested that because we didn't see a move to the downside, in fact, I think we saw a move to the upside. Market was slightly up on that day. The next day, on the 18th, or yesterday, we reached a point of being neutral, which allowed for the indices to have another low in today's trading. But we have reached a point of being extremely oversold in both the NYSE and the NASDAQ. So that tells me, while it's not 100% conclusive, the possibility of some type of rotation or pause to work off this oversold condition in Monday's trading certainly is there. And the other important aspect of this is the fact that volume ticked up in the NYSE slightly, but really nothing to write home again. The trend in volume is still down, and volume on the NASDAQ actually declined below what it was in yesterday's trading. So really no impulsiveness except for market breadth in the indices today. Market breadth was very, very weak, which suggested that it was a very broad-based sell-off, but just not a whole lot of volume coming in. We need, if there is any more downside movement the first of next week, really need to see volume increasing above what it is in today's trading. Now, one more caution, or at least strategic information, is watch what happens on Monday if we get a lower low that might even trade below 420. But breadth has been really at a pretty much an extreme level through today's trading. If breadth is stronger than it was today and we get a lower price, that's going to be a pretty good indication you're going to see some type of rotation back to the upside. Whether we trade through this 425 level or not is going to be extremely important as well. So watch what happens on a breadth divergence below 420. Watch what happens on any rotation up at 425. And the same thing would be true with the Qs. If there's a divergence in breadth and any lower low, potentially testing the 320 level, expect a rotation back up again, because that's a signal the market is stronger internally. And then upside resistance is this 326 level. That's a really important. If this three-step move is developing into something greater in degree of time and price to the downside, these levels must hold. 425 in the spiders and 326, 327 in the Qs. Have a great weekend. Going to be a very interesting open on Monday.